So Rob,
Yeah.
which one's your signature?
Right there.
Don't let the chocolate.
Which
go
one
away.
is?
Just kidding.
That's yours and
Just
Clint, me.
All right, we're ready to get started. We've got a parking garage update.
Hello, I'll take it away. This is Jeff with ARC Architects. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Great.
Yep.
I will share my screen and give you all we've got trying to get this under 20 minutes to let you know what we've been up to. So, can you all see that?
Yeah.
There we go.
There it is.
There we go. Okay. So, just wanted to give a recap of what we've been doing the last few months. So, as you all know, we've been looking at two options for location and kind of building concepts for two properties within 1,000 feet of Front Street Park. One that we're calling the D and E, which is Dragon Tail and Enchantment, shown in the pink. That's by the library and City Hall. And then the other one being the Asgard and Blewett site, which is across from the Fest Hall and Starbucks. So, in with the RFQ, I think the main takeaways were that we're looking to get a plus 200 parking stalls in addition to all of the street parking that's on the site for any option explored. And then in general, we've got a list of criteria that we have for each option, showing how many stalls did we add, how big is this building going to be, how many floors is it going to be, whether or not we can have a roof over it to make the maintenance easier, how many ways can pedestrians and vehicles get into it, and then is there room for added amenities like restrooms and storage and commercial space. And then in general, we just wanted to have kind of what we're calling an efficiency number, which is how many stalls per square foot, or how many square foot per stalls, because that will kind of impact the cost, and then just a general idea of the concept of cost. In terms of the overall status of the project, we've explored four options at each property at a kind of a diagrammatic level, showing kind of massing and building kind of placement on the site, and then where we're going to go next after this is to look at exploring what the building skin could look like to make sure that it fits the Alpine theme, and then explore and develop the site plan from a kind of parking layout and how it would all work from a landscaping and civil perspective. So that's kind of what we have on tap for the next 2 months, and then this feasibility study will conclude with our recommendation for that. So I think the intermediate task at hand was to explore the 8 options and narrow it down to 2 that would be more developed. And I think I won't make you go through all 8 individually, if I'll jump to the end. Um, but in general, the top 4 that you're seeing in the row, those are the AB, the Asgard Blewett sites, and the bottom 4 are the Dragon Tail and Enchantment sites. And this is what we presented at the community engagement night 3 weeks ago, and on the 3rd. And we were wanting to get feedback to see if our recommendations were in line with what the public sentiment was. So again, the big plus number is how many additional stalls each one had. And then we wanted to show a range of solutions that showed from the minimal amount of stalls added to the most that you could possibly fit on the site, to show if there was an economy of scale to answer that question. And then again, just showing a range of solutions that moved the building around and placed it in different ways. And I think what we found from the community engagement night is there were 2 clear kind of favorites, and and we promise we didn't influence them, but those happen to be the 2 that we're also recommending. So we asked people to do stickers to say whether they love something in green or whether they disliked it. We didn't use hate because there's just too much hate in the world. So we just had a red sticker for dislike and a green for love. And I think the results that you see for the 8 properties, the first bar being total positive, the second bar being total negative, and then the third being the overall. I think the two that were recommended by our team and kind of embraced by the public ended up being overwhelmingly favorites, and those two happen to be both at the Asgard Fluid site. Um, so those are those two properties, and I can go back really quick. In general, based the first option looked at going within the Blewett, kind of what we've been calling, for better word, the pit. So the existing parking and shoring walls, replacing those because they are the footprint is too small to fit a conventional parking garage, and then there are also concerns about placing a building within that shoring wall. It wasn't designed to withstand a new structure being placed in it or on it, or in it or around it. So the cost associated actually do include temporary bracing and replacement of the shoring walls that exist today. But this one in general, there's access. The positives are there's access from, the Blewett Annex, from Highway 2, from Front Street. And this one explored the potential of what we're showing is a blue bar of the leasable or commercial space being a potential office for city staff on the top level of the garage. The second option that was liked is very similar, but I think the main takeaway is that this one is fronting the garage with more commercial space, and that way that the building would be perceived more as another building downtown, and less like just seeing a bunch of front and back ends of parked cars from the side. So this one does have a little more a better gesture to the public in terms of the use. But those are the two ones that we explored, and then, like I said, beyond that, the next task is to take those to the next level with site design and refined costs, and some imagery of what these two options could look like in terms of the building skin. Any questions?
Yeah, Jeff, this is Brandon. Just to be clear, those dollar figures shown on the slides, those are construction dollars, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So these are construction value without sales tax.
Yeah, I had a question, change there, your council member. Constituent reached out to me and kind of asked, and I was also curious that if you guys had looked at like a location outside, like the downtown core, like behind Safeway, or is this mainly to utilize land the city already owns?
So in the RFQ, I'll answer that. In the RFQ process, we stipulated that this would be a garage within 1,000 feet of Front Street Park. The reason being, when we had Rick Williams working on updating our parking study with our parking advisory committee, we asked them to do a financial pro forma for a hypothetical garage. They looked at the finances of one located close to downtown and one located behind the Safeway. And the difference is that one behind the Safeway is we incur the cost of shuttling people as well. Probably we could utilize Link, but they included cost of shuttling people in that pro forma. And there's a lot of free parking around the Safeway as well.
Right.
So what the financial pro forma indicated was that the parking garage, in order for it to pay for itself, would need to be located downtown and close proximity to other paid parking, force people to pay to use the garage. And even if it is located downtown, the estimate that they were using at that point in time was $75,000 per stall. I think these cost estimates are a little higher than that. Was that it would still need a supplement from the rest of the parking enterprise funds. The garage won't pay for itself just with the streets.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. This is Mike Bedard, Councilman. I'm assuming somewhere along the line, we determined how many parking stalls do we need? The 200 number is what was in the RFQ, but did we determine somewhere where we need that many? Or do we need, if we go to the 300 or the 500, is that even useful? Or is it overblown?
200 was the number that Rick Williams gave us a couple of years ago. We did that pro forma and that did their staff.
Okay. And then that leads to my second question for you guys, the architects. When you were at the community engagement night, did you get a sense for what people liked about those, the ones that they liked? Is it more is better and they really just love that? Or was it a specific location? Did you have an idea on what kind of drove those green dots?
Yeah, definitely. I think this was, the third community engagement. I think it's been the same kind of consistent, but I would say that the pros of the Asgard Blewett site was that it was on the south side of Highway 2. I think the idea of sending pedestrians across the highway was a non-starter for a lot, and I think that the fact that the Blewett, what we keep calling the pit, is something that needs to be resolved either way. It was just kind of a natural fit in the public's mind to take something that is inherently set up to be something for a garage and use it for that one. So I think those were the two major factors in what we heard from the public as to why those were preferred. And then in general, the consensus was that more parking, the better. And I think we were hopeful that if we showed like a really high number, that you would see that those dollar per square foot or dollar per stall or whatever would come down. But I think we showed that it wasn't it wasn't enough. And it doesn't start to become beneficial until you start to do 1,000 or 2,000 stalls, which wasn't possible on these sites. So I think we were told that the commercial spaces are nice and they could be nice, but I think the primary feedback we got was just if at all costs, just more parking.
So this is Rob, let's talk about that for a second, in terms of continuity of sense of place going down from the east end of the highway of Front Street. As we all know, businesses, that's our future growth on Front Street, in addition to commercial. So having continuity with businesses will then help the next property east of that develop. We have too many gaps between retail and stuff like that. So we're talking about our economic base in the future. So if we can take an opportunity to close that gap, architecturally, but also functionally, it's something we should probably look at. And so I was going to ask you, I'm sorry, I was out of town for the meeting. What does that retail or retail space look like is it a 200 version or 240 version?
Yeah, so currently it would be, like we were mentioning, if you could imagine Asgard being the flat kind of multi-use kind of parking and ground level open area. And then there'd be a bar that could be as many stories tall as it is the garage. That would be an interface between there and that, and then the garage beyond it. So we didn't explore kind of traditional of let's do an entire floor plate, 3 levels of commercial over parking. But I think it was always kind of smaller scale pieces to kind of soften what will be a very large building and to provide some spaces for rent.
Yeah, because we have people developing, what is that, front 12th and Conway, that area, so tying in that existing building, and then we've got the bike shop down there, so drawing more people down there, and we tie it together would be helpful.
Are you saying that you liked the one across that would be over here, envision that as a retail space?
About the pit, but has some aspects of it that has some type of, not just a wall of parking, but have something in there that breaks it up, and if there's some offices or some retail, kind of pulling.
Yeah, I true. I thought you were saying that you liked not your garage there, but you wanted retail.
No.
So it's just the aspects in our packet, you see that there are retail, right? They're very small though. So I don't, the continuity, I know what you're saying, it's like, what were we talking about even putting in there? What would be a suggestion, what can you see? What were we talking about, I can't remember.
We haven't done a market analysis.
But the spaces themselves are kind of, I mean, just odd shaped spaces, so.
Yeah, the one option that we mentioned,
What's
Yeah.
the one option was the one where it was on the highest level is about 5,000 square feet of office space. That one could be, rentable office, so or city staff office. That was kind of as far as we took that one. The other one was 2 levels, each being about a floor plate of 5,000 as well. So it's 10,000, which would be on par with kind of a larger restaurant like Rhine House or something is about that square footage. So again, no market analysis, but these are kind of comps within the greater downtown area for rented spaces.
Jeff, Mike Bedard, another question. I'm looking on most of your site plans or your plans here, and they show 5 access points, say for the 240 net gain AV spot. Where are the 5 vehicle access points? I'm seeing 3.
Yeah, I can load that back up. Hold on if you can't see it. Yeah, and sorry we didn't do them all. Can you all see that screen pretty well?
Yeah.
Yeah, so in general, there's this one that's kind of faded down. So this is the existing curb cut onto Highway 2, the in and out. This is the kind of the shared drive that comes out of the Starbucks drive-through. There's currently a kind of blocked off but potential connection, the 10th, with which the city was interested in. There's the other connection off of Front Street here, and then there's the existing lower connection to the pit as well, and then there's the Blewett Annex pass connection as well. So this one does have the potential to access on all sides. The traffic consultant had some kind of preferences for it, but I think given these are all existing connections, they thought each one was viable and can be kind of taken to the next level if desired.
Thank you.
Will the pit development, if we move forward with the pit development, will it be connected to the Asgard lot on the surface level, or are they going to be completely disconnected?
Yeah, I think in our discussions with the landscape and civil engineers, just for reference, what's shown as the parking there was just a placeholder by architects, and we shouldn't be doing site design. So I think the idea was that we wanted to have when guests arrive and they park, that there's kind of a sequence of events to get them kind of more of a pedestrian friendly way of connecting through the building, and that the west edge of the building can be a gateway to the downtown from the parking garage. So the idea that they're going to explore is actually softening up and losing a few stalls, but making a better pedestrian connection.
That was
my question. My question was, the Asgard lot that's going to stay as surface parking lot, assuming that this is what we move forward with. Will the Asgard lot be connected via vehicles to the same elevation as the Asgard lot within the parking garage?
Correct. Yeah. So the way that both of these are designed, and it's exploded, so it's a little hard to see, but this level that I'm circling here is at the same level as the Asgard one, so that we basically just have there is no step down, so it is a nice continuous connection between the two.
Okay, so someone can drive from the Asgard lot into the parking garage from that.
It's potential. You could we explored it on one of the options, but I think that one wasn't as well received by the public. But I think the ones that we're showing now, it's more there's always a potential to say yes, but I think the ones that we're looking at are more, the cars don't go through, they can get through on like 6 ways. We just knocked off the seventh one and we just made it more of a pedestrian connection.
Got it. Okay, so that kind of goes back to your question, 5 access points. They're not really all 5 access points if the parking garage is like.
Right, there's 3 to the garage and 2 to the surface lot, or
Well, really,
2 to the garage, 3 to the surface lot. Yeah.
Yep.
Let's talk about that for a second. So what's if a vehicle goes into Asgard's surface parking and it's filled up, they have to go back out.
Yeah.
They have to go back out to main circulation.
No, you come down this one to Front Street and then go around.
Oh, yeah.
But still, yeah.
Like,
There'll be a same relation, it sounds like, but not necessarily connected.
Simulation but not continuous access.
that's correct.
Yeah,
I mean,
circulation won't be multiple
yeah, I follow.
locations.
Is
But
that
it's
a
all
common?
designed that way with one.
Yeah.
I mean, is this a desirable way of producing, making this? I feel like I've been in lots that go into the parking garage. Jeff, can we put an entrance there?
It's definitely a possibility. I think our concern was that at some point it's a little unsafe as a pedestrian if cars are moving in and out of every spot. So I think this was the one where we did break it off. But I think if one of the two, if you'd like us to keep that alive, we could bring it back to one of them.
Couldn't you just have a separate thing for the pedestrian pass through, a separate thing for the vehicles for the safety issue?
Yeah, there's multiple ways to address it, but I think if the concern is that most people will come in off this Highway 2 and they'll kind of circle around until they find a spot, if you'd rather keep them within this footprint, we could definitely introduce a drive connection between the two.
I'm curious on the psychology of it. I personally would look for street parking and then a garage secondary. So I feel like people would pull into a lot. I don't know, maybe it's somehow I think maybe it's more expensive to be in a parking garage, so I'll do a lot first. So I think that would be the first place they would go. And like you said, if that's full, they can go all the way back out. So I feel like this would be first and then the parking garage. Is that what you'd find? Is that a thing, or is that?
Yeah, I think they'll see cars and they'll go there first. But yeah, I don't know how to answer that other than people are just going to keep driving around till they find a spot. So
Right. Circulation.
Yeah, the point I was trying to make sure that if the existing parking lot is full, why send the car back out onto a street to get back to the parking garage when there's an connection right adjacent to it? So.
We'll hopefully have the digital signing.
Well,
I was gonna say.
Well, you know.
Yeah.
So they'll already come into town, but they don't know where they're supposed to go.
We'll see that.
We'll have the smartest tourists in the point.
Jeff Fitzgerald, Council. Apologies if this detail was in your materials and I missed it, but just so I get a sense of the timeframe of momentary disruption. Assuming you go with Asgard Blue, from the moment the dirt turns and the tape goes up until the time when the parking lot is fit for use, what is the expected timeframe for construction? How long is this? Are these spots? What was Blue at commission?
yeah, it's a good question. I think in general, we always it's somewhere between a year and a year and a half from start to finish would be a good, that's what we assumed for the cost estimate. So that would be that much time where it definitely the Blewett would be offline. Portions of the Asgard could be phased, but yeah, that could be a window where this entire property you'd have to plan alternatively for parking for people.
Thank you. Questions?
I don't want to kind of sidetrack this, but since somebody else has asked some questions at the moment, we've been meeting with SOMAS for the downtown revitalization. And I don't know how much of that is on your radar, but you came up today because some of us have been asking about whether we can close 9th Street down the way and punch 10th Street through the existing parking lot. And it was suggested that you or your consultants had looked into that possibility at some point and maybe could speak to that. Can you tell us what you know about the pitfalls or challenges of extending 10th Street out to Highway 2?
Yeah, definitely. We took a look at it. I think the two concerns were one, pretty much right at the terminus of 10th, there is an existing electrical transformer, I believe, for all the buildings that are a Starbucks and associated that are to the west of it. So the cost of relocating that was so cost prohibitive that our estimator didn't know how to price it, so very expensive. And then the other portion of it was in talking with our traffic consultant, they were pretty convinced that WashDOT wouldn't allow another curb cut on the road. So I think that was just it wasn't confirmed, but that was kind of a non-starter for that consultant as well. So I think those two were the reasons it only went conversationally and not any further.
Okay, just to clarify, the curb cut component was not assuming that the 9th Street curb cut would be eliminated. I'm guessing you're talking about just in that discussion, it was only
adding. Yeah.
So, Mayor, we've come up, I think 3 or 4 times in downtown steering committee. I think, could we officially ask WashDOT? I mean, so it's a no-go. A lot of time has been spent. I mean, Mike, I can talk about it. Another couple of members sort of asked. So, is it just that extension of 10, but for the removal of the relocation of it? Is this by WashDOT regs and whatever, having a 10 and a 9 just too darn close? So should we just do a final ruling? And
well, we're talking about eliminating 9.
Well,
on the south side.
On the south side, there's still going to be going to the north side, there still would be an intersection line. So I think that might be, I don't know if you talk about WashDOT. So maybe that's an answer,
There was fairly overwhelming support for the idea to look into it from the committee, the downtown steering committee. So whoever would be the one to ask, I think it would be prudent for us to at least check on the feasibility.
At least float it up there.
Yeah, you do due diligence. And then we can move on to other problems that we can't solve.
All right, any other questions? Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Nice to get it down.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Pardon?
She asked if I had a presentation. I did not have a presentation.
Oh.
Sorry. I can't hear the conversation.
It's like, okay.
We're a recycling center conversation.
Right, I don't want to repeat or redo everything that I put into the study session or into the agenda, but the crux of the issue is Wasteland, who has been managing our recycling center, is closing down their mission and moving a lot of their stuff to Sustainable STW. Sustainable STW has said that they're not interested in continuing to operate our recycling center as Wasteland has in the past. However, they would like to discuss exploring or expanding a partner with us to increase the amount of glass that we recycle in the center. A couple points that I want to make is that this recycling center is open just a few hours a week, a few hours on Wednesday, a few hours on Saturday. We provide mixed recycling, glass through Wasteland with the donations they receive. And I did have an error in here. I did say that Sustainable NCW has taken over the glass recycling and the cost. That is, I learned that is not true. That was what I understood was, but I misinterpreted the information that I was given. But this recycling center, which is open to residents and mostly utilized by residents, is paid for by the garbage enterprise fund. And this is a holdover from a time when the city provided garbage services to the entire community. And in 2019, the city contracted with Waste Management to do garbage and recycling for its residential areas. And the recycling center is kind of pulled over time that the city did garbage for the entire city. We know that there's been an issue with non-residents utilizing the recycling center, in particular the waste, the yard waste container, 30-yard container gets filled up almost immediately when those recycling days occur. And the council did approve a contract with Winton to provide curbside pickup, curbside yard waste within city limits. And so they'll be starting to provide that service this spring. So this is an opportunity for the council to discuss what should be the future, right policy direction to the staff. What do you envision for the future of this recycling center? Do you want us to figure out a way to continue operating the way it operates today? Do you want us to look into something different? A regional glass collection center? Do we want to continue to provide recycling to residents when residents have the ability to recycle through waste management? Will they take the recycling down to driving? Transportation for no fee? Do you want us to encourage the commercial accounts to recycle in that center? Because many commercial accounts, especially where they're located along alleys, don't have the room to hire recycling containers from waste management. So we're just looking for we're looking for you guys to have a conversation, provide some policy direction for where you'd like us to see us bring this recycling.
So the givens here in this discussion are, it's not an if, it's a when that yard waste and recycling will be sunset at that location. And the conversation before us is, what do we do there?
Well, if you told me to figure it out, then I'll figure out how to keep doing what we're doing. My preference would be that we don't, because I have an issue with the fact that we're providing a service that's largely used by residents, but it's borne by the commercial and multifamily accounts. I think it's an inappropriate, in my opinion, it's a misappropriation of our garbage enterprise fund. So I would like to see our garbage enterprise fund provide services to the businesses that are paying into the fund. And we know that it's difficult to recycle glass. It is something that Waste has figured out, and Sustainable NTW is willing to carry on. Removing glass from our commercial garbage reduces our tipping fees. So it makes a lot of sense to increase the amount of glass we're recycling, because our garbage tipping fees would go down if we make it easier for people to take the glass out of the waste stream.
So I would say, first off, have we asked residents, because I understand your frustration with the enterprise fund, being used fund is. But what do we find in the fund? What do residents pay themselves?
That is one option.
Because I think you might be surprised that residents are willing to pay instead of taking it up to win or turning it over to Winton. And you might find a market there where they're willing to pay something. And you find my experience has been that there have been issues with non-residents using absolutely, but I don't know how prolific that's been. From my experience, talking to folks down there. The other thing is, I do think it's important to expand the glass procedure, but I think it's possible we could do both, is serve higher needs for the city and glass and still keep that brush. If we can find the cost of it, residents paying for it. They might just be willing to make that payment instead of taking it up. You can't take it to right.
Correct.
So you
can order curbside pickup. If you're willing to pay, you don't mind me arguing with you. If you're willing to, or make a counterpoint, if you're willing to pay, why wouldn't we just take advantage of Winton's curbside program?
Because I think the amount of folks that have a brush can't fit in a recycling center container. It's usually trucked, back into a pickup and stacks of brush. You can't compartmentalize into those habits. That's what I see around my neighborhood is you're hauling stuff that you can't set aside and have someone put it in their truck. That's one issue. So that would defer to, it allows them to at least take one load down that's bigger than what they could hand over to waste. You're talking Winton or waste management?
It's Winton that does the work.
Yeah, so that would be my capacity that they're allowed Big on their own. Down there instead of, I wouldn't take it. Does that make sense?
I hear you saying.
Wouldn't have container size options though.
Do they?
Yeah, but
One
not big.
person can have the account, go in, 4 or 5 neighbors take it though. And I'll share it.
Well, that's what the capacity, though. How big is that?
What's that?
How big is the capacity?
That's which one you pick.
Well, like the largest one we got.
Is it 96?
Yeah, I mean, I hear Zeke's point is that for some people, when you have it, you got a bunch of it.
And then you don't
Need it. So then, rather than holding it and putting a little bit out at a time over the course of the
Summer
Summer.
or spring, yeah.
right,
You wanna get rid of
being
it.
able to get rid of it all
Get in your yard.
with a pickup versus 96 gallons. I mean, I hear
Is that, how many people is that? Is that out of a population of 2,500 people at home? Like, is that the majority of people have that truckloads, or is it percentage, a smaller percentage, or I just don't know what?
I think it's pretty majority of what I've
Majority.
down there, folks bringing in trailers or pickup loads. But, you
Yeah.
know, if you're doing
Is that all domestic or is that like
I get that.
commercial business?
That's domestic.
I mean,
I see both going down.
If a lot of it's time of year. I mean, when it's seasonal, you have these influx of
Pine
leaves and pine.
Pine needles.
Yeah.
No, I can do it.
Back of a trailer, you gotta, I mean, you just haul it up or drop it off.
Yeah, I mean,
It's just maybe not convenient. Does the city have designs on that property? Is that also in this?
Not at the moment. We're not when we're talking about building a public works campus. We're not quite there yet. I mean, that's an idea. That's that we,
Right there.
it's something we desperately need is a new public works campus, but we have a lot of other priorities.
Would we,
So it's like, you know,
this is two separate things. I think I saw it in there. Is this an opportunity if we did stop doing that and the monies that we spent in that garbage enterprise, part of that garbage enterprise fund, buy everyone on Bearwise, buy hand, could we trade those dollars? That's a nice thing, community too, saying, hey, look, we know we're taking this away from you, but also we're gonna cover the cost of, or percent, to make it easy for people to transition to that. That's a really big deal. It's getting Bearwise hands. Is there?
well, I don't think it'd be prudent to spend garbage enterprise funds on commercial clear camps.
I'm talking about Bearwise placing people's property for residents.
That's what I'm saying.
The city doesn't do residential garbage anymore.
Yeah.
So we can't
We
spend.
can't spend garbage enterprise funds on fire-proof cans for residents.
Legally.
Yeah, residential is done.
That's too bad.
We are trying to get money from the state.
I know some great.
But that's
But
separate from using.
Yeah, okay, I'm just,
yeah, and if we were gonna become a full Bearwise community, we would need both residents and commercial accounts to be Bearwise. So, and by the way, ignore the $50,000 number I put in there. I'm not certain if that's an accurate number when I was reviewing the budget for this meeting. I think there's an anomaly in there, so disregard that number, but there is a number that we are paying for this recycling center. And we could repurpose those funds for, when we get there, bear resistant containers for the commercial accounts, but I can't say you can offset that residents.
Question for you, Selby. I remember back in the day, this is a very passionate subject with our constituents. Have we had this topic discussed at a community night? I would like to hear what our current pictures from the community. I think this is, I think this is, remember when this recycling center started, to get a lot of passion about us doing it. I would like to get an update check from our constituents and see what's important to them. I mean, that's mine. I think I'd like to take this, I don't know what our timeline is, but I think we have a community night, talk on the subjects and we hear from them, what about us, what about, garden waste, what are the options are you willing, let's get some context and help us make that decision.
As long as you put it in, if you say you want to pay for it, you want it for free, that's.
Well, yeah.
And right now, it's for free, so.
Well, somebody else is paying for it.
Well,
It is not.
that's the thing. It's not free, but it's free to them.
Well, I think we have educated people, I know you know this, that we have educated constituents, let's put the facts out there, let's have a conversation about, okay, this is where we are. mean, I think we can all understand that and say these are the options that we're looking at. And, you know, we may not do this, but here's some options. Does that work for you? I would like to have that a little.
No, I hear you, Rob, and I agree with you. I didn't want to bring this to the community until council had had a chance to discuss this. We did have another meeting in December. It was myself, the mayor, Mike, and Zeke, Ariana was there. And folks from Sustainable NCW were in the room when we had that meeting. This is the first opportunity I've had to bring it to council.
Yeah.
What I would recommend, and I've already written a note to do, is we'll create a survey to the community, which we can do in fairly short order. I don't want to wait until our May community engagement night to get input from our community. And even in May, by May, we could present the results of the survey that people have done to further this discussion. Now, Ariana, I'm not sure how long you guys are willing. Right now, you've signed a month-to-month agreement with us to continue to operate your recycling center. I'm not sure how long you'd be willing to continue to do that for us.
Yeah, we're going to continue with what I've been advocating for a dialogue around it, so
I think if I could maybe toss out there, you can smack me later, is that we had after the storm, we had a really great pop-up meeting here. I mean, I'd be willing to commit an hour or two and do a pop-up, get together here in the chamber and think, hey, folks are
Single topic night.
Single topic night, and just, and just make some coffee and let's let's just get some input. I would like to have a robust, at least some information before we.
Right. So it'd be interesting too, to again, compare if we are going to keep it there and charge for it, again, what would our charge be?
Right.
That's again going to have to be some information that's given, so you're comparing, a real
apples to
apples, so to speak.
And who's gonna run? Because it sounds like we've got temporary solutions right now that don't want to run that long term. So we'd have to figure that out.
the city ran a fire place, so basically it's a new.
Yeah, I heard that one.
Center. So the city public works department helped to run it, so.
Do you have?
It's been handled by the city prior.
I'm curious, to your point, and we live 2 doors down from it. I live down the street, I take my wheelbarrow down when I go on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And I see it's busy, but perception is reality, and I don't know and I see the truckloads of stuff, but what I'm saying is, how many people really use it? That's that question of on the survey. I'd love to see if we can email you some questions.
Yep.
And kind of, the survey is great.
Yep.
Do you have numbers on how many people are dropping stuff off?
Approximately, yeah.
Okay. Any ideas on top of your head on a Wednesday night, in spring?
I can say off the top of my head, but we have also conducted a citizen survey, produced that you can share.
Okay. Yeah.
Updating it, and to Rob's like also the transparent. What's happening and, the bottom is one of the most important things in the community.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to tell them that they're best before the entire community. It's not that. People don't, right? They just don't know.
Oh, by the way, to your point on that, I also had the recycling club in from waste management, and I think we discussed this. Or do people know if the driver sees that you didn't take the cap off a plastic bottle, that whole container is painted, and that whole truck goes to the dump. Which I mean, their recycle center is probably empty because they make more money taking it to the dump. So I take solace in taking something to the street, knowing that the cardboard's done right and that you guys do it right. So, anyways, yeah.
I was going to ask you, Ariana or Marlene, if you sense in your manager there was a real issue with non-residents squeezing in? I mean, did you have, or was it a difficult thing to sort it out? So you have to where the residents are the ones that are using it. I mean, is that a real battle?
The largest challenge in my experience is with the urban growth area. So people thinking that they are within the city, but they're not technically the city. So there's a lot of residents.
Yeah.
That fall into that category, and that is the most challenge. Express, and that's where there's a lot of those people who weren't technically city residents, coming up.
So what has to be done here is establish the fact that this is. That we're getting, well, we charge, or maybe it's different.
Well, yeah, I mean, if we charge.
So. Okay.
But then you may, again, you're gonna have to probably, I'm guessing, including that charge, some fee for renting it. Because again, we're not gonna have waste food that's gonna be ours, but again, we're not gonna take it out of the garbage fund, we're gonna have to have whatever. If we decide it's a pay-as-you-go thing, there's somebody there that can take those payments and.
Well, yeah, do we charge more for non-resident?
And we don't have a scale. So, I mean, that's the way Winton works. Is you bring your pickup truck full, see, you can dump your stuff, where you go in, when you come out, you pay the balance. It's the way it works at other transfer stations, drive as well. I don't think it'd be equitable to charge someone $50 a month, when somebody's throwing out, one or two leaves, bags of leaves, and someone else is putting down a tree. And there's
the size of what goes in.
and there's the point that, in my personal experience, it fills up in the first hour, and we don't have people on staff that on Saturdays and Sundays to haul it out and take it up and bring it back empty. That process takes over an hour. It's not something that we do. So we'd be asking people to pay for a service that we really can't guarantee we're providing.
Well, and to your point, on a separate but unrelated account, I highly anticipate starting within the next couple of weeks. The storm that we had and all the traffic spots, that's there. Guys, we're going to keep it on Saturdays. People have a lot.
They do.
Delivery on their yards, and they're just waiting for it. Yeah. This is going to be an issue.
So
Yeah, I mean, when you said they're home within the first 15 minutes, last fall, I actually felt it's better. I actually brought mine in the 11 new there on Saturday and on, I still had room. That should not be the case. That's right.
So Clint, to that point, let's plan for that. Let's address that. Because let's take that bull by the horn. Let's figure out how, let's find a solution for that. Let's help the residents. There's a load of stuff out there. And then to your point, you're gonna be bringing it. So what do we do? I mean, do we get a couple extra and we do a special thing? And you said, hey, we have a lot of debris there. So how do
We opened, so the city brought up its debris, and our contractors were allowed to bring their debris to the cemetery. We also opened up the residents to bring it to the cemetery. My understanding is people are continuing to do so.
Good.
I signed an invoice today for ordering some no dumping signs, because we haven't communicated that this is what we're telling people to do post-storm. Like that first weekend, yes, we're writing down license plates and trying to figure out where people are coming from. We have a lot of people come from outside the city limits, but the city residents will end up bearing the cost of disposing of that information. For I don't know if we want the cemetery to become a transfer station regardless. I don't think that is that best use for our.
And really, that location on 14th is not great as a transfer station either, especially for truckloads, right? So you're taking a truck and then you're going to transfer the whole contents of the truck bed into a container that now that container gets moved. It really makes more sense to have large volumes to take it to Winton. And then the rest of us who don't have large volumes should get it curbside. I mean, if we're willing to pay for it, there is an option for us that is reasonable.
What I see is first off, I think Ariana had a good point as far as you start with the transparency. This is not the time to stop the rush. What's left of the time. This is not the time. Which so you have this meeting, maybe make the reality clear about how you charge, and maybe there's a limit to what you can bring in per load per day, and you set some parameters and get that discussion started, and then see where that takes you. My experience hasn't been that people take 2 or 3 truckloads down on one Saturday. It's been part of the backload of a pickup, but it is a backload of a pickup, and that does fill up. But I think the way to handle this, because I can guarantee you there's going to be, if we don't deal with this openly, just too much blowback, which we don't need. We can make it turn the other way. And so we're responding to the community and this is how we're gonna deal with it. So,
And be part of the solution.
yeah, part of the solution.
Yeah. I don't.
It seems like, yeah, it seems like the solution that we did temporarily out at the cemetery, as long as we have it closed off when we don't have it monitored and we have somebody checking ID, because right now that would be a way better place to manage that large volume of debris, because we don't have the ability to manage large volumes on 14th Street. And then as long as we don't then become the collection point for the entire valley, because like Selby said, it is paid for by the taxpayers within the city limits. And so I think that everybody else does have, they have options.
Yeah.
And it's not as much as I believe we all are a community, but the cost being borne by just the small portion of the community that lives within city limits is not reasonable to ask. And so I think that is a solution we can do that's already being used, and we can eliminate the one on 14th, which is just really minimally effective, I'd say. My thoughts. But I do want to say, I'm 100% for making recycling easier for everybody, and whatever we can do about glass to make that work. And we know that also has got a huge demand outside the city limits. And I don't know if we can collaborate and work together with the county and have one space that can do it for everybody and figure out a system for that. And still have a collection point for the downtown businesses, because there's a lot of glass getting thrown away downtown. So if there's a way that we can do that, and instead of focusing and trying to do everything, we can focus on the one area that is not met anywhere else. That would be really great.
I spoke to one, so sample of one winery downtown, and asked, what do you guys do with your glass? And he says, well, there was a point in time where there was a high school person that would come through and take it away. And I think they brought it to the recycling center. That when when he picked up of his glass and his recycling glass, and so he just throws his away. And he understands that we have glass open, and he could come down at the end of the Wednesday night and bring us cases and cases of glass, but it's an inconvenience, and therefore it's not a priority. Again, that's a sample of one, but we have 20 plus wineries downtown now. We're throwing away a lot of glass in this downtown.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't.
I don't want to hear you about going to the.
No, you didn't have to take the label off. You just.
I'm not gonna see what the glass is got. But I understand. Orlando, Seattle, Denver, the next stop, any business, guys. I'm glad. Some level.
Thank you, Ari. I do want to recognize that Marlene did show up from Sustainable NCW. So thank you, Marlene. You guys have both communicated about wanting to expand the glass recycling program. So want to give Marlene an opportunity to address the council on that topic.
It's been very saying it sounds like, yeah, you guys need to kind of have a way that it's not necessarily people who are PDs out there or paying for services. And what I'm also thinking about is if you ended up keeping our waste right there and it's starting to charge a fee, that then just makes way more of a favorable option. So people, it's like, then it's almost like why I have there all this. It has in the mids, instead of having this one place was very small yard waste. So I'm also hearing that there may be certain people who, it's very small levels, so that's a little hard, but also there's curbside that can be of various sizes. For yard waste, I think the winter and curbside changes frequency based on time of the year, seasonality, like they have more hookups in spring and fall when there is more yard waste expected. I guess I would love to see if the yard waste roll off or dumpster is moved from that recycling center downtown and there's an interest in glass, continuing, could the glass expand there? Because there's now more space and then really more citizens and more partnering with businesses since they're so close. That would be great. Or finding out if there are other things that businesses are not recycling that they could fall over if they knew it was there for them and they had a way to go at their own time, maybe not just during those hours, like they have plastic and cardboard and aluminum and stuff too. That would be great. Just in the wider country, we are trying to work on getting more plastic recycling in the whole region. And we're small organizations, it takes time, we have a lot of people who are interested in it. And I say every time my organization is anywhere, it's on the first part about that. So know that is like just a very important thing to so many people in our area. We're working that we can work with Chelan County at the dry transfer stations that have lots of like there. We've been talking with the solid waste advisory or the solid waste director, and it's possible, but we just need to rent or get a go to have it, and we would have to monitor because they would not staff it. We would do it ourselves. We do want it to be all just glass and really uncontaminated, because again, it is highly valuable when it's not contaminated. Glass is in like for instance, Oregon, where they do a lot of recycling, it's less valuable than what we can do if we send it straight to places like Seattle or Portland, where it's pure glass and then sells to back to glass bottles. So yeah, I'm just here listening to the work, but we're thoughts.
I was shocked before last year when tariffs kind of went up and down. People it was cheaper to buy wine bottles from China and ship them back to the United States than to recycle and buy them regionally. They're buying them from overseas. And I mean, the Columbia Valley, I feel like we almost rival Napa and Sonoma counties, but we do a lot of wine in Washington. Like it's just shocking. I was so disenchanted about the glass, the wine bottles. And then with the smell of going out of business and thing in Portland, like the whole dynamic of like the Seattle transfer and then like that whole thing. It's
I think it's very we found.
It sounds like it.
Like in terms of American glass. So there's more that we can support it with glass winners. Like and it's kind of like better.
Yeah.
International.
Yeah. Well, they had a question. You were chewing at the end of the question.
I just think that somehow what seems to be one issue in front of us is how do we get this glass out of this 20-some wineries or whatever, at least reduce that number, because that is a mountain of glass going to landfill. I mean, like, come on. I mean, I don't know how you facilitate that. I have no idea. But actually, I'm not a wine guy. But I mean, you're right. You'd be amazed the glass that's can't even imagine how much is done if you have 20-some wineries.
So, what's in by is chewing. I was gonna ask that same question, didn't need an answer now, but to Selby's point, everyone's busy. So you don't need an answer now, that maybe you need experience other places that facilitate for businesses. Maybe easier for, you still have to put skin in the game, but how do you make it easier?
Yeah.
Incentivize, but also, it's basically fun,
But you said a high school project. I mean, I think Boy Scouts, a scholarship fund, to have a service, Rotary service organizations. I mean, I think there's
that's
a plan.
I'd love to discuss it further, like maybe that night, maybe from your experience, what other communities have done to.
Yeah, like Walla Walla, they're doing a lot of that, and they have collection events, and they do them at a winery. They have their location, and then they'll have like the first part of the event be just businesses, and so that they can bring a lot high quantity, and then they can residents coming in later with their smaller quantities, and then you can kind of have, they basically charge certain rates, and then for commercial customer rates kind of different than what it is for businesses. Yeah. I'll just add that our research and conversations with businesses downtown and affirm what Sylvia was saying in that even if there's an event, if they need to take it anywhere, it's too much for them. Not only their costs, but for a lot of other these barriers. So what we have found out in our research across the nation for smaller communities that have small scale pickup, is that oftentimes volunteer led or it's a service that the businesses have to pay for more. So I think like learning more about how businesses, their content can glass, and where the city has funding to cover or match or tribute towards the cost of lowers it for businesses. I think it's all good optional to move forward, but being able to meet businesses that we have, I think will be the most attention to the class out of our.
So it seems to me like, I mean, if they're basically they're wine stores, that's what they're moving a lot of wine products. So there's a lot of glass. And that's a lot of their dumping. So I mean, if you could make it so they paid a service to pick it up, that was still undercut what they've been paying if they had to dump it.
Right.
I mean, that would be the sweet spot, right?
And then you think the same thing.
Yeah.
It's something to look into and explore, because I mean, we're paying for one-way and tipping fees. So if we move from the stream and we subsidize and have that have some skin in the game, you know.
Well, then they're the ones paying those tipping fees because they pay for dump.
Right.
They pay every time they have to.
Yeah.
We're not coming to pick it up, but
we're not weighing, we're not weighing.
Well, no, we're not weighing, but I'm saying if they're,
It's a,
if they're having to, I mean, those are.
Yeah.
And if they're having to get 2 or 3 pickups where they could get one.
So the commercial folks, like wineries, they actually pay a tipping fee from this.
Well, we need the tipping fee, but they pay per pickup, and I'm saying that they took out a lot of that from what they need to be picked up.
it might go from 3 to 2.
Yeah.
One would be,
Also picked up, right? It's just a different type of thing.
Yeah.
Just a different pickup, and if you can make one cheaper than the other.
an incentive.
The easiest that we have found in our conversations that most of the wineries are building that is provides a benefit for businesses.
So they're not doing their own.
So they're not, can't make a mystical wine that that's typically part of a wider building a pickup. Food, on the other hand, is easier in conservation in that regard, where the cost benefit equates out a little bit easier because they're part of the summer. Some of the larger restaurants. But
Well, we share, my business shares our trash collection with the neighboring resident business, and it's not that difficult to kind of loosely say, well, how about we're gonna have our wine bottles or glass picked up now, but that should reduce the frequency. Because it's literally, we came up with the equation and it's adjustable as needed depending on the seasons, and you could do that if you wanted to offer that kind of collection for a multi-business building. I don't think it would be that difficult. Yeah. The layer is kind of already there in that I'm assuming, I mean, I'm sure there's multiple different iterations of agreements on how the trash is paid for, but I'm assuming everybody splits it some way or other. And all you have to do is just kind of renegotiate that split according to whatever we do with glass, if that's possible. And just somebody was asking about different cities. I can only speak to the few places I've been involved with, but the city of San Diego, where I worked for 18 years, they have a lot of alleyways, an old city, the alleyways that are tight, and they have these kind of carts that are smaller, and they would literally like have maybe out on the road, and they'd run these carts down the alleys and collect. They'd have a couple of people in the cart, and cart maybe is a misnomer, but small truck, let's call it like a little key car, kind of like deal, with multiple recycling type bins on it, and they would go in and fill it up and then get to the end and dump it. And since our city's pretty small, I imagine you wouldn't actually have to bring a big truck with you. You could maybe run the small truck through town, how frequently it's in and do that service without huge trucks running around and having specific container sizes, that had to be accommodated.
So a glass pickup fee, I could definitely see being paid for by the garbage enterprise funds.
Yes.
Because it's reducing the amount that we're paying for tipping.
Right.
So that I could definitely, I could see us providing that kind of service.
Right.
Oh, man, yeah, that's what you're saying earlier. Yep.
Yeah, any other thoughts? This one?
Did we give you any sort of, yeah, I mean, how much?
There's a lot of opinions, but there's a lot of information for us to gather before we can continue this conversation, is what I'm hearing. So I'll work with Kara on some surveys. I'll get some data from Ariana that she's collected in the past. And we'll discuss doing a pop-up event on a single topic for the community sometime in the next couple of months.
That'd be great.
Cool. I like it.
I will add this one thing. I appreciate that historic debris management have brought up for the springs because that will be a big challenge. So that is something that can be discussed in the near term. And potential solutions made in recognizing that it's meeting the need of the community at this moment, not necessarily a long-term solution. So if there is something that can go forward to help manage that situation, I think we and the residents would appreciate.
Things are funny already.
Yes, yes.
It is good.
Well, Michael, what are you saying? I mean, you use temporarily the cemetery to open that back up because of the volume that would be able to be out there versus down here. But it doesn't mean, again, if we want to contain it to our city, because that's who's going to pay for doing that, we would have to have someone there where it's open. Some way to manage it.
Well, we did have people that first weekend after the storm. We did have staff and for the following week.
Right.
And I think it was staff Monday or Tuesday, but I think the rest of the week it was staff. And I asked for people to take addresses. I know they did for the first weekend and I never received the addresses. So mine did a quick little whoa. I'd say a good chunk were inside city limits, but there's plenty that weren't.
I mean, could we give people enough warning, 3 or 4 weeks and say, hey, we're gonna have yard debris pick up this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, this time only, last chance, organize your efforts over the next, or make 2 weekends in a row, and just say, here it is, spring's coming.
It's coming and we'll have a band out there for those 16 people.
Time, staff time and stuff like that.
It's also going to cost us to dispose of it. So we're collecting it, but we've been discussing internally how we're going to get rid of all that stuff from the cemetery now that it's there.
Bonfire? Bonfire?
Is this something that the city would want to take on? There's a question to you. Is this something that you're going to staff it if we go that direction? Is this something that if we take over the cycle center? Is this interesting? I mean, is it creates another challenge?
It does create a challenge, and how I feel about our enterprise fund funding something that isn't primarily used by businesses.
We have to figure that out. They get the people that are using it to be the payers for it.
I will note also, as you know, there's a spring pickup that the city does, and so this could also be a good solutions to minimize what they're going to see. So working with Public Works on the regular CCR, I don't think they're going to be.
They haven't. I don't think they've been discussed or decided.
But it feels like that'd be a huge overwhelm for the spring pickup if there wasn't an additional solution and communications around it where the city would have to.
It might reduce actually spring pickup.
Exactly, yeah, reducing it at least making it more.
We want to do it before we do the spring pickup. So we'll know.
Exactly.
I mean, it's part of the problem.
I mean, time-wise, do we need to discuss it further or something we should look into, lean into it? Because I mean, it's March. It's March.
So it's more.
It's March.
Someday.
Lord.
I
Yeah.
think we need to get a survey, get the community, get an idea of what we need to do.
No, we're talking about we're talking about one-time yard debris waste from the store.
Yeah,
That's the issue on the table right now.
we can discuss that with staff. We can get that scheduled. I'll find out when we typically do those yard waste pickups and make sure that we can get some volunteers to work overtime to work weekends to.
I'll check that out.
Well, and I think it needs to be heavily checked by compliance.
Oh, yeah. I want.
Yeah, it's just the city as well as folks, because the city's paying for it. And that's not what historically is happening in their 14th Street site. Anyone who's using it.
We need to list the streets that are out of city limits.
What's that?
We need to list this.
Oh, we have it at the recycling center for yard.
Okay.
recycling. And a map that shows, nope, that's UGA.
You're in the UGA.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
And again, that goes back to people still think of themselves as low residents. And that's difficult. Line across if you would, when you tell them no, because you're not a resident. But it is, it's the only fair way to do it.
And to that point, Carl, when you're going to have the conversation with the open dialogue and transparency on funds and stuff is, and I don't know this, how do city residents contribute in terms of like funding to the city? You know, property taxes, okay, no, just something that's simple like that, of like the difference between in a city and out of a city and why that matters. I think it's just a helpful talking point.
I think it real clear.
Yeah.
Clarification, yeah. I mean, you might not like it, but it's clear, it doesn't make sense, so.
And any communication we put out there should probably have a reminder that Winton exists.
Yeah.
You know, it's difficult because it's so convenient to just have it right here in town, even though anybody who's ran dump loads, truck bed loads of stuff, the unloading process is really difficult. And unfortunately, you got to take it out and put it into a bin. You go to Winton and you can just rake it out, slide it out of your truck bed. It's so much easier. You know, we start creating that mindset. It's a little bit farther drive. It's not that much farther than most everywhere else in the world. If you want to take a truckload of debris and take it somewhere, it takes a while to drive out to that spot. And Winton is not that far. It's way more convenient to get the stuff out of your truck onto the ground than to put it in a bin.
Now that you have a 10-watt can,
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah. You can get there. That helps. Yeah. I want to. We wrap this up.
Thank you for the conversation.
Good conversation, thank you.
Yeah.
15. I know.
Also for February 24th, order, we stand in like the region and civics.
Everyone start.
I believe it's to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Pedestrian.
Amherstburg.
These register came there. Rutherford Masters, Rob Eaton.
All here, present and accounted for. That's great. I would take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Moved
Moved by Glenn, seconded by saying, all those in favor, let me see your hands. Passes unanimously. Again, just a reminder that we here at this place are respectful of each other, acknowledge it's okay to have disagreements. Prior to making comments, if you make them, you must be recognized by the chair. We want you to address the council and staff as a whole and not to individuals. Keep your comments focused on the topic that's being discussed unless your comments are on items not on the agenda. And with that, we'll move to items. Any comments on items not on the agenda? If anybody here would like to just talk to the council and mayor here and staff. Is there anybody online?
There's a lot of people. I don't see any.
People
A lot of people online.
I don't see any to see the downtown. I'm sure they're here to see Solus.
Oh, yeah.
Good. All right. Seeing none then, we'll move on. And we do not have either of our public safety reports being here to be present tonight. So we will move on beyond that to our presentation on the Front Street Pedestrian Plaza. Solus.
We're gonna navigate, tag team up here, so let me know if you can't hear us both. My name is Holly Williams. I'm with SOMAS. We're an interdisciplinary design firm that have been working on the Front Street Plaza project. We are going through the 10% design phase, and we are excited to be here today to update you on our progress with that. I am the project manager on the design team.
And my name is Paul Fusel. I'm a senior urban designer with SOMAS. I'm here assisting Holly and the team on the 10% design.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. For those that have seen us, met with us before and heard us present before, I'll say it again. This project is a very special project. And we're really honored to be a part of it and teaming with the community and with you all today. So, right, we will jump in. So we actually presented to the Downtown Steering Committee earlier today. It was a really great conversation. Same presentation that we have prepared for you all today. I will warn you that we met for 2 hours plus. So this is going to be the condensed version of that, but really great conversation. So quick outline of what we're going to talk about today is do a quick project status and recap. Kind of where we left off when we met with you this fall. Proposed improvements, we'll discuss briefly. Planning level costs and considerations. So we're at the point, the 10% design of how do we move forward with this, get it to implementation. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir.
Yeah.
I just realized, even after meeting with you guys many times, I don't really know what this 10%, 30%. Can you just, for the benefit of all of us, so what does it mean at 10%? And then what are the next phases? If you can do that quickly, so sure.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So, you had the idea through the master plan, which is this vision, but to bring it to fruition, you have to start doing your due diligence and research. And 10% is just trying to figure out what all the components are and then trying to reflect them, in this case, because we included a survey on the physical reality of the site. And we do it only to 10%, but where I try to identify all the issues, trying to research background information that's really going to be needed to go into design, and then kind of look at what all the issues are. So that's what 10% is. It's also to energize the project so we're all on the same page, because we did a lot of public collaboration, which will continue, but we wanted the whole community as well as everybody in this room to be excited about moving this project from a vision from the master plan into reality. Then from 10% is 30%, where you design everything, you've made all your final decisions, And then from 30 to 60, 60 to 90, you're engineering everything out so that the contractor has what they need and plans and specs to bid it and to deliver it to construct it and constructability. So we're going to actually go all the way through to construction and phasing considerations because we're thinking long-term, not just design, but how this will all unfold, which is for the community a very important part of the project.
Yeah, so just to kind of build on that and help define some of the terms that you'll hear us use tonight is that 10% is that visioning, but based on reality of a survey and geotech information, some of that preliminary investigation work. And then you'll also hear us talk about planning level costs. So we're at that point where we're putting costs to that vision at this planning level base. And then as we move from 30% to final design, well, let me take that back. The terms that we use for final design is essentially we're finishing up this 10% and then moving from 30% to 100%, and bid docs is that the kind of the final design base that we will refer to.
Yeah, and then just to add one little dimension, this will help. Planning level is all the costs that are part of the project. Design costs with consultants. It's looking at inflation for when it's going to actually be built. So we're providing numbers for what the vision, the plan that all of you have seen, what it would cost today and then build upon it. So it's got all the other sorts of considerations of costs that a project will have to have included in it.
And so we'll talk about those, how we move into those next steps from 10% design to costs and construction. And when we presented to council last, we got into a lot of in-depth design considerations and details. We won't do that again tonight. We don't have the time. And it's been discussed. So we're at that point of moving forward with that, essentially that vision. But from what we've heard, we've had some really great conversations with the public, council, stakeholders, business owners, and it seems that everybody's on board with this vision. I jumped ahead a little bit, but ultimately the goal, the catalyst of this project is to fulfill that master plan at a level of quality that is this 50 to 100 year project. So we understand this is going to be a big investment, and we want to make sure that it's a quality long-term investment. We also know how important it is that it's a continued support to the economic vitality of downtown, and also creating a welcoming community space for both visitors, tourism, and the community that lives here. And then, as I mentioned, we've had a really productive process getting input from the public, stakeholders, business owners, and it's been
very collaborative.
Yeah, and instrumental to where we are today with, as I mentioned, a concept that I think that everybody's excited about.
So this image, these photos were taken during the summer by the city visit to Bavaria. And the reason we want to show this again is this is the goal that the master plan points to. And the visit this last year was about documenting that level of quality and placemaking that we all want to see get manifested on Front Street in the pedestrian plaza areas. And so this is our target right here. This is what our plan's trying to achieve.
And this plan reflects essentially that vision that was brought back from Bavaria, a curbless pedestrian plaza. So essentially taking it from, the operations of the street being closed, that's been functioning and functioning well since 2019. And so now it's transforming that look of the road into a public plaza. So this reflects that. I know it's hard to see, it's a long stretch and you can't really get into the details here. We've got some images that will help kind of show the look and feel of what we're imagining here. Anything else to add?
No, I think that's it.
So this was, some of you have seen this before, an initial sketch for the Royal Lady Plaza. And again, it was just kind of an image to start continuing that conversation with the public and getting feedback, same with the stakeholders. And we're excited to share with you today in the way here of just taking that that vision and imagery to the next level. And for fun, we started to play with, this is, during the day, at night, lighting, festival lighting is such a key design element in town.
We should have a glockenspiel music playing.
Yeah. And then it's in the winter. And then this is going back to, I wanted to show you the sketch of Royal Lady Plaza, essentially a sketch of looking down Front Street. And, we'll continue to refine it and take it to that next level of design and visualization. But hopefully this gives a good look and feel for the vision. And I'm going through this quickly, you guys, so please stop me if there's anything you want to kind of sit on.
So with the planning level project costs, that includes construction costs, design costs, contingencies, and inflation factors for the future and other additional costs. It doesn't really include phasing, but we're going to talk about the things that need to be considered around phasing.
We added this picture here intentionally to show, this is where you guys started, right? And we've already made such progress just by closing the road and changing the way that we use the space.
The biggest and boldest, by far the biggest, boldest challenge that Front Streets had was whether to take cars off or not. And that's proven to be a complete success, and it hasn't helped the economic vitality. And it's wonderful just to watch everybody day and night walking around through the streets so comfortably. So that's a hard sell. So kudos to councils and to the council here to make that decision over a period of 3 or 4 years.
With the help of COVID. Yeah.
We know COVID was the impetus, but you still had to take the brave decision to let it, take that chance and make it work. So, and at the previous water, can you go back?
Yeah.
This is really just trying to illustrate a pedestrian plaza should be with all of those elements from the previous photos of Bavaria. And then going back to the card picture, right, it's no longer a street. That's the concept. It still will provide the ability for delivery trucks, emergency vehicles, chamber vehicles, setting up events or whatever to still be in the space, but it's a completely different space.
And while we're sitting on here, I just want to point out a couple design features that we mentioned, just as far as it being a curbless pedestrian plaza. We're giving hints to a new band shell to help support, a variety of events and the flexibility that's something a little bit larger and potentially relocate the gazebo to another part of town. Shade, we heard that's one of the kind of the biggest asks from the public is to provide more opportunities for shade. So we're giving hint to cafe seating, umbrellas, trees.
Let's go to that next slide after this.
Okay, so we went through design pretty quickly. We're going to jump into cost considerations. So just to kind of give you the lay of the land of how we've tackled these planning level costs. The red outline is the Front Street improvements. We've segmented it into three, kind of three buckets. The Front Street improvements, 8th Street from Front Street to commercial, and 10th Street from Front Street to commercial.
There are design items that will need to be fine tuned, and we just want to give you a heads up that some decisions haven't been completely fleshed out. Pavement treatments is a typology of quality that we want to really make as Bavarian as possible, but still keep the cost relatively good. So we have different types in this cost estimate that are high quality, let's say granite pavers to concrete pavers. That still has not been fleshed out because we're only at 10% design, but we have like ratios that make sense in our mind for success. Heated pavement area is a bigger discussion around snow removal. And so we have a placeholder for that right now. Park improvements, the new band shell and developing concepts, moving that forward is Holly said, shade. Different structures, cooling features, tree succession's a really core element that we were kind of planning in there, but haven't laid out where all the new trees or even temporary sorts of elements might be placed to hold the Festival of Lights, slope refinement, Royal Lady Plaza's plugged in. I mentioned the Village of Lights where we need to consider electrical needs as well as maybe even future framework to hold things as other trees develop, and then a whole set of amenities. Those are all within this cost estimate, but all need to be refined. That would happen through 30%.
So moving through costs, and these are costs at, if we were to go to construction today. So they're 2026 construction costs. We're going to step through additional costs. You'll see it kind of build as we go. Within the Front Street, the red zone, Front Street improvement. So that includes the park, Royal Lady Plaza, converting it to a curbless street with pavers. That is looking around 26 million. Streetscape improvements on 8th and 10th are looking at around 1 million each. Some other costs to point out here that we've kind of separated out, looking at different buckets of cost, are water improvements and sewer improvements, which are needed at this, future improvements for the street. The other costs that we're looking at are heated pavement costs.
And the band shell. And the yellow here is just showing one level of heated pavement. And it gets into a big story, which we don't want to jump into unless you really have questions around it. But this reflects discussions with the PUD to provide the energy and the power to do a hydronic system where the yellow is, where the city is not involved directly, is a PUD. So there's so much power needed that if you pass a threshold, you would need to have a full-time electrician to be managing the system from the PUD's point of view. So we're just starting off with right below that threshold with this planning estimate. Yes, Clint?
Could we go back one slide?
Sure.
We're talking about costs. I don't want my brain to lock in on a certain number because I get if it's bid today, the dirt's not turning next month. So as we're kind of thinking about this moving forward, since this is a long-term plan, doing the math in our heads, can we expect per year 10%, 15% cost increase? Hard to say because the environment is so wacky. What's a good rule of thumb?
Yeah, we have numbers 2 slides ahead that show 5%.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a 2030 threshold for construction.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
we're kind of just taking you through our process.
Sorry, didn't mean to get
No,
ahead.
No,
that's
that's okay. Yeah.
Planning level estimates need to consider that way. If you're not thinking that way, it won't work. Yes.
This morning, the downtown steering committee you mentioned what it would cost if we're just gonna redo the street as it is, and that number was.
Yeah, so the number that was mentioned this morning, I want to make sure that we're just comparing apples to apples. And we had mentioned if you were to do just the street improvement, curb, sidewalks, utilities, we said around 20 million. But I want to make sure that that's clear that that's also with all these added contingencies and future, not constructed today, but in 4 years. So I just want to make sure that that's clear.
Yeah.
But yeah,
We didn't say today's cost. That would be apples to the 26. So it's less than 20 today for just roadway improvements on Front Street. So we'll compare that to this future build out in the slide.
But the point is that if you were, and if you go out there, it's needed, right? These improvements are needed, however that looks like. It's a long stretch of road and improvements, and it's gonna take an investment. We mentioned the band shell. We've got a question mark kind of by that 3 million. That's not been designed yet, not even at a 10% level. So that's kind of our guess. That's gonna fluctuate as we continue with design for that. And then to your question here is breaking those costs down even more, looking long-term. So as I mentioned, these are 2026 construction costs that we've added up. So that's that top line there. If you add some of these more soft costs and inflation, breaks down to 1% for property owner coordination.
And that is of the construction cost totals, all these percentages are of that 37 million.
Yeah, thank you. 5% for project administration. Design, engineering, and construction management. We're figuring at this point about 20% of that construction cost. Management reserve, there's still a lot of unknowns. And even as we move into construction, there's still going to be some unknowns we're gonna need a reserve for. And then inflation. So if we look at a 2030 build, adding 5% onto every year, we're at a total of about 66 million. And then we're even gonna put a range on that because, to reiterate, we're still at 10% design. There's still a lot of things to figure out. We're looking at if you were to take that down 15% or add 20%, we're in a range of 56 to 80 million. As we continue to refine design and just take it to that next level, we'll continue to refine costs.
We do a lot of CIP estimates for cities, and so we're conservative because we want to capture the future values so there's no surprises. You don't want to get behind, right? But these are planned costs, these aren't actual costs, but they're based on current bids, the current environment, and our best guess towards the future. So 5%, more than the 3% for cost is a reasonable place. And so now one aspect of the cost construction and all of this is how we construct it. And that comes down to construction phasing. We absolutely have to maintain access to storefronts. The economic vitality supersedes everything else as we're constructing this. We need to be able to, through the duration of construction, hold events, all the things of why people come to Leavenworth has to maintain itself, even when the ground's dug up and utilities are putting in or pavements putting in. And then keep constant communication with all the stakeholders in the community, primarily the businesses there, but really everybody in the downtown core and all the residents, just to keep them up to speed. So the next slide.
And I'll just say, going back to kind of costs and what we're trying to estimate at this point is we know that the road Front Street can't just be closed down and this is all constructed in one phase. So the construction costs, that percentage reflects that, but also just acknowledging that because of how this, the tourism, economic vitality, is so important to this town. We're already thinking through, thinking forward to how we can phase this essentially.
So a strategy is to take the geographic layout and formulate potential projects that could be bid out in, maybe there's 2 or 3 areas where you can move construction and activities around to allow events to happen, make sure that we have access to storefronts for visitors through the whole duration of construction, as well as deliveries and, you know, all the other maintenance vehicles, emergency vehicle access. But we have kind of formulated divisions of where construction activities can happen. So that's one layer. The next slide takes it to another layer of, well, this kind of deep dives where the orange arrows here are representative of people getting the storefronts, where some zone of construction might keep it open right along the buildings, and then other times maybe this is under construction, so they're coming through passageways. This is kind of how we have to formulate both how it gets constructed, and there's still another slide, so there's another layer, but also how we package these into projects that can be bid out and contracted to do the work in a way that works with how the Front Street works. If that makes sense. And so the other layer is utility works different than the final pavement work and some of the other amenities. So utilities could come first and plaza improvements later, so it could be phased in that way. There's also time of day, whether it's day or night. Construction is a possibility on certain activities, and then moving events around to temporary locations or putting stoppages in the specs and construction documents to allow certain events to happen where it's not impeded by construction activities. So we're formulating all these different layers as we're looking even at the 10% design to try to figure out where's the less pain happen and where's the less surprises, and then how can this move through phases of construction activity to make it happen. Because as Holly said, you can't close down the street to make this happen. This has a little bit more of a logistical nature to it. And we need to think about that, not let the contractor think about it, so that we can maintain access to businesses and the events.
So next steps, we talked about this 10% design phase. We're coming to the end of that, and then moving into 30% design. So we're taking all of the things that we talked 2 hours earlier, plus that into kind of that next layer or level of design and considerations, continuing to have conversations with the public and the stakeholders and council, making final design decisions, and then also planning how we're going to essentially phase this as well. So it seems a little early to think about how we're going to construct this, but it's imperative that we start thinking about that now so we have a plan moving forward.
We've done this in lots of downtowns. Our passion is downtown street improvement, plaza improvement. So this is part of what we do to get things built.
So a lot of information, kind of high level.
Scratch the surface.
Yeah, but please let us know if you have questions, comments.
What other downtown cities have you guys helped revitalize? Kind of.
Probably the largest one is downtown Redmond, over 15 years, and doing multiple capital improvement projects, from 3 major street projects, a lot of secondary street projects that are downtown park, Redmond Central Connector, and then even wayfinding. There's subsets of work to make all of that come together. Downtown Duval, their Main Street in 3 phases actually. Downtown Snoqualmie in 2 phases.
Downtown Pasco, saw the first phase through plaza improvements and did the visioning for downtown Pasco.
Smaller projects, downtown Auburn with Division Street, downtown Lakewood with Colonial Plaza, which is actually a street called Motor Avenue, but now it's a Plaza space that they hold their Saturday markets. And I can continue on. We have lots and lots and lots of examples. So everything that you see here, from the planning level cost to the construction to the phasing and all these considerations of how the plans and specs would come together, you know, from let's say 60% to 90% are all to make it get built.
Ollie, what you guys did is got a tourist industry here. With your experience, what's been the biggest challenge for the downtown core so it keeps up its vitality, so it can stay in operation? What was your challenges with the merchants? Let's put it that way, whatever, you know, what was that you had to get through, because it is disruptive. So.
It is, yeah. And that's why we're starting to talk about that already, is how we can kind of move construction throughout the project, so it's not impacting the entire corridor, but we do it kind of in segments, and even segment the segment as we shown. And then also it's just continued conversation and coordination with the business owners. One project that we actually didn't mention is the International District in Tacoma is a great example of where we literally had a project storefront in the district that had the liaison there during business hours. So the business owners could come and get information about construction, you know, to come, if they had any questions, concerns. And, you know, we pride ourselves on getting to know every business owner, property owner within the project that is under construction. So it's just constant communication, heads up, no surprises, and then doing fun things to kind of help. We know, you know, that there's an impact, and so there's, you know, what do you call it? The big truck days, or, you know, just fun things where we incorporate public art, or a day that the kids can kind of come climb on the, you know, the big machinery and stuff like that, just to kind of, you know, lighten the mood of, you know, just the impact that construction.
Fear drives like what's going to happen to my business. And we've done this on so many main streets, so many storefronts. So and everybody's got skin in this game, right? But an individual business owner is going to have a lot of concern around that. So again, as Holly said, no surprises, lots and lots of communication, first name conversations, maybe places to meet. They're busy too. So they can get information, and we're just kind of 2 steps ahead, and we're alerting people as to when one activity versus another activity happens. So we've actually, with our construction manager people, they'll knock on doors each day to say good morning and let people know what's going on. So that level of care, at least they know that they're in the know. What they don't want to be is blindsided by something. Yeah.
You know, one thing we didn't talk about today, which just dawned on me, is like we've been here before with this. We have some business owners that have gone through this downtown and they survived. So I think drawing upon that resource, some with businesses that have gone through reconstruction of downtown, their businesses are open, they've gone through the process. I see some people in the room that I'm recognizing that have been there. So I think we can draw on that experience. And having talked to new business owners and say, hey, we did it once before, some projects we survived, it was painful, but it got us to the next step. And now we're at the next step. So I think that's a tool that Michelle's.
Yeah, I agree.
The master plan had a vision, and this is just showing you exactly how it will start to unfold, right? When it's finished, the synergy is so much greater than actually all the construction impacts for the placemaking that will happen. Right. And that's why it's such a big lift. You had to wait till you were ready to do it. And this is the time to do it. So, but we want to make sure everybody's involved and that everybody feels that we have skin in the game, because we need everybody's kind of participation to get through it together.
Did you guys take into consideration our new parking garage?
Yes, we
Yes.
have.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I saw that on the map or not. We were really decided, I mean, we're ultimately so officially decided where it's gonna be, but most likely in that piece.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you're working with them on this, seeing their designs and you're taking that into consideration, or are you communicating, would you communicate with them? I imagine that that's about 4 or 5 years out maybe, and this is, which would be first, right? The garage will be first, it'd be less than 2 years out. 2 years out, so the garage will be there first, and so you'll just incorporate that sometime along the way.
Yeah, we've already started those conversations, coordinated with Brantley, for the potential of that project, you know, at the end of this project, geographically end of this project. And, even to the level, even though both projects are, you know, at the beginning stages of design, thinking about like heated pavement, for example, that's gonna need, like a facilities building associated with that. Can that be incorporated into the parking garage? And kind of already thinking through that. The streetscape improvements for that, you know, understanding how that parking garage, if it goes at that location, you know, how that's gonna affect the street side of it. So yeah, we're, as much as we can at this point of design, we're trying to coordinate. Yeah, and we'll continue to do so. Yeah.
Did it get hot in here? We talked about a $45 million. So much.
Cool as a cucumber.
An opportunity, we talked in the committee earlier, and one thing that I think is important, especially now that the public is seeing these numbers, right? They are impressive numbers. And I think a lot of people ask the really good questions of, well, why are we prioritizing putting all this money into downtown? Why aren't we prioritizing that money on fixing our sidewalks or our streets and residential neighborhoods? And it's really important to constantly remind people that the money comes from different sources. And there's a lot of laws around what we can't spend money on. And this downtown project is not using resources that are dedicated towards replacing the infrastructure in our residential communities. It's not going to take away from our sidewalk. We have a bunch of projects coming down the pipeline that are going to be happening before, during, and after any of this other stuff that is funded separately. And this is a complex financial arrangement, but it's going to be more on using enterprise fund like lodging tax, using money that we can get from state and federal grants, and investments from downtown business owners. So the vast majority of the money is not going to be coming from the residents in our city. And it also is not going to be pulling resources from the projects that we need to be done also in the residential areas. Did I misrepresent that at all? And I personally am trying to reiterate that as much as possible because there's so much misinformation out there. But we are trying to do it all, and it all is separate.
So that, I just want to add the next steps. Did we go through that on the slide that really the next step to move this forward is to get into 30% design to make all the final decisions of what would happen all the way through the construction document phase. Like clear on that. Yeah.
Great. Any other questions? Just a comment, sorry. We did talk earlier in our study session and asked questions about Sheet 10th Street through. We talked about that earlier today. We officially, I think, as a council, asked the city to look into it with the DOT to see what kind of restrictions, if it's something that we can feasibly do. So keep that on your radar.
Yeah, well, thanks.
So Mayor, just want to thank also, we had a really great, and thank you guys for the conversation today. It was a very robust conversation.
Yeah, 2 hours.
Yeah. But also, you know, to Mike's point is that, you know, communication plan, but also it's a large project, but I would like to see us actually get a funding strategy plan together. So actually have an ad hoc committee, whatever, but figure out what sources are available to us, what funding strategy would look like, but also to articulate to the public that exactly underscoring your point that we're going to be going after federal, state, you know, our MPO, you know, the city. So our funding strategy is going to be very complex and very diverse, and it's going to be a strategy that's built on phasing. But so I think we need to get our heads wrapped around that now, because as we go to 30% and you refine the numbers a bit, we can get our strategy in place so that we can strengthen our top. So how we ever want to tackle that, we have to feed into that as well.
So I just want to say one thing to the council members. We're working together to create the adjustments to the contract to continue on to 30%. So I will have those numbers here in the next couple of weeks, and then I'll bring those to you at that point in time.
To move forward to 30%.
Yes.
That would work. Just right.
Great.
One more comment.
Yes.
This is actually just a little note of appreciation. And I look on social media, I try not to get too involved, but I noticed a few comments recently, and especially when this was announced, that talk about they aren't considering deliveries. There's a lot of negativity that immediately comes out, and it's unfortunate because if people came, listened, heard what you said, but you glossed over it briefly, but you clearly are considering delivery routes. You're considering the total functionality of the downtown. You're considering the vitality of businesses, both during and after the construction process. And I really appreciate that. It's really great to see the depth of understanding that you guys have from your experience in how to pull something like this off and make it work for everybody. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
We learned last night, you don't get your information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
Well, thank you guys.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks so much.
All right. Our next is a public hearing, and Peggy's going to introduce. We're going to open this public hearing at 7:42. And again, just a reminder, it is a public hearing, which means you need to come if you want to speak, come to the microphone, state name and address to be included in the public record, and address all your comments to the city council. Again, the comments need to be relevant to the topic that's being discussed at that time. And this is not a time when we go back and forth. It's the time of comment period, not a time of discussing with council. So we'll open that public hearing, 7:42, and Maggie, you want to introduce it?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the public hearing for the amendments to the Leavenworth Municipal Code. The draft code sections are for Chapter 1825, the district use chart, some minor amendments, LMC 1836-025, residential dwelling standards, 1836-045, duplex and triplex dwellings, and LMC 2190, common definitions. This has come before you a few times this year, following the Planning Commission's hearing in December. This has been on the docket for multiple years and was originally discussed with our housing action plan in 2020. These amendments include code changes to allow for triplexes in all residential zones. Currently, they are only allowed in multifamily and considered a multifamily dwelling. This also would update our residential design standards for all types of dwelling units to address aesthetic compatibility concerns that were brought up during the preliminary discussions on this topic. We have attached housing, triplexes are defined as attached housing of 3 or more units. And these are currently considered multifamily, as I previously stated. But triplexes offer a lot of the same benefits that accessory dwelling units do. They can increase housing supply and diversity, increase affordable home ownership opportunities, and affordable rental opportunities and supply. Again, Planning Commission held their hearing on December 3rd. They brought their recommendation forward to the council for consideration. I brought that to the council on January 27th and got some feedback on some proposed changes, brought that back on February 10th, and we addressed a few more changes. So the document before you tonight under tab 8 includes all those changes that were made during those 2 discussions. with the council. And they are outlined in the staff report from the planning commission as well. I did break down the materials in the tab under so it starts with the most recent changes we made. And then I also included a section that shows kind of the feedback, kind of the points we talked about during those study sessions. And then it ends with the staff report from the planning commission and that original draft. So you can just kind of see the progression, which I think is helpful to see the thought process behind the final documents before you this evening. This has gone through 60-day agency review with Commerce and was approved through that process. We did receive one public comment or agency comment, I should say, from Chelan County, and that has also been addressed in the final draft before you tonight. I believe I've touched on everything. I am available to the council if you have questions for me. Other than that, that concludes my report.
Anybody in the audience would want to come up and make it's time for public comment, public hearing, or online? Anybody raising? It's going to be a short public hearing. Any comments from council? I had a question, a couple questions. Simply, so you mentioned, drawing on space in the street on which the front and or street side setback is located shall include a minimum of 50% glazing.
Mm-hmm.
So what's glazing?
So windows.
Windows. Okay.
And that's to address that blank wall when it's facing the street, just to add, it's an aesthetic element that a lot of codes have. We do have something similar in our code now, but this just is an easier calculation, and we tested it out in a few situations, and it seemed pretty reasonable, and wouldn't add too much more of a cost.
The other question I had is, this also applies to non-conforming lots that are less than 6,000 square feet, right? So that's been my question all along is, why do we care about putting a triplex on a non-conforming lot? Fit a smaller ADU on there, that fits. Why are we concerned about trying to get a triplex squeeze onto a non-conforming less than 6,000 square foot lot, and then having to have administrative deviation? What's the purpose?
So on the 10th, when we discussed this, and maybe I wasn't super clear, so I'll try to go back through this for everyone, but you're talking about 1836045, section A. And it talks about conversion of existing structures. So if you have an existing structure, this isn't talking about putting a new structure on a non-conforming lot. So if you have a structure on a lot, that is non-conforming due to setbacks, it's allowing for that conversion as long as the current setback, it doesn't go, I need to reread this. Conversions of existing structures to a duplex or triplex are allowed in conformance with 1868. So then when you go to 1868, our non-conforming chapter, it talks about what's allowed on a non-conforming for non-conforming structures. This is specific to conversions only. And if the setbacks, if it was legally established and it has a 20%, I can't say this right. The structure can receive an administrative deviation and encroach no more than 20% into the setback. So that's for an existing structure. So we're not, I wish I could show this on a piece of paper.
You can't make it more non-conforming than it currently is.
Right, and this wouldn't be for a brand new structure putting it on a lot. This would just be for an existing structure being converted into. Okay. So it'd be like you already have a garage here, or already have maybe a single family residence, and you're gonna divided up, so there's 3 separate dwelling units inside that existing dwelling. So this is for conversion only.
Existing structure. Right?
Yeah.
You're gonna transform.
So we already have provisions in our non-conforming code for additions to non-conforming structures. As long as you're not making it more non-conforming, there's some rules and you're not expanding the non-conforming wall by more than 20%. There's a whole lot of regulations in there. So this refers back to what's already in code, but it's specifying that for conversion specifically, we're going to allow you to convert your structure even if maybe it doesn't meet setbacks, as long as it's within that 20% and not greater. So if you had a huge nonconformity and the structure was, in a residential zone and 0 feet off the property line, I couldn't give you that deviation.
Couldn't do it just because.
It's not within that 20%. Yeah.
Sorry.
Does that kind of make sense? I'm
No,
sorry.
that makes sense. I still question myself.
I think it would be easier if I drew it out.
Well, I'll come see it. How's that?
And this will be coming, if the council moves forward with this, this would be coming to you as an ordinance, and I can bring that even with the ordinance as to better explain myself as an illustration.
Yeah.
I think that might help.
Yeah, for myself, I just question it. I mean, we're losing a lot of green space, but with the increase in density. So for myself, I just question the need to make everything fit, no matter what. I would just say, well, if your garage, then don't turn it into a triplex, turn it into an ADU, smaller, do it that way.
Yeah, and that could.
So that's my issue, is that I don't think we need a sense of everything's got to be built on to the biggest, highest and best, that kind of thing. I just don't see the value. I think we've already made a lot of changes, and so this one I'm questioning. That's kind of pretty much the second part.
I think for the most part, though, Z, what you're defining is that a non-conforming situation, probably you're not going to see very many of those trying to get a triplex in there. I mean, just by the nature of the beast to begin with, it's going to be rough. I think it's worth leaving in for that exception, but it's not like I think you're gonna see a ton of these coming forward to try to.
Yeah,
it's not gonna have a lot of housing for that one specific piece, but.
Maggie, maybe clarify, there's a lot coverage allowance when you go to units, right? As it suggests to maybe clarify why I asked. If you just put a single family home, you can cover your lot and go up to a certain height in one structure as it sits right now. And if you go with 2 structures, maybe get a little bit more lot coverage.
I think I'd have to go look back at the code, but I think the only deviation we've allowed for is for ADUs, to allow for, because they are smaller and it's a more affordable option than building a large scale, duplex or triplex. We've allowed a 5% increase per unit now that we allow 2 ADUs per lot. But this would be like, if this was in an RL6 zone and you wanted to build a triplex, you're at 35%. Without.
This is kind of addressing concern, which I think is a valid concern. Are we pushing to fill up the lots? And this does not allow you to fill up the lot any wider and higher than existing code.
Correct.
But you can have more units,
or larger than the existing structure that's there. We're not going to do setbacks or 3 houses in the city.
So you're saying you can't go past like the 35%?
Yeah, this doesn't allow them to deviate from that.
So the 20% deviation does not allow them to go there?
Yeah, this is only for if a structure is already non-conforming due to setbacks and they want to convert it to a triplex or duplex in this code. It's only to allow that conversion to happen when they don't quite meet the setback and they're within that 20%. But it doesn't give them any lot coverage, building height, or to expand or encroach in another area.
Yeah. Okay. That's good.
Any other questions, comments? Again, this will be coming as an ordinance next bill. All right. Seeing none, and we still don't have any from online, I'll close the public hearing at 7:55.
Thanks for all your great work.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate your feedback. It made this go a lot smoother, so thank you all.
Make sure your notes and stuff too, that's really.
Okay.
Great job showing your work.
And over, running stream. This is my first time that I've been in this situation since being mayor, and that is that we have no action at all. We canceled some meetings before, but we've never had one that we didn't have at least one. Anyway, we'll go to council reports. No reports at this time.
Last week I attended our Link Transit Board meeting. We continue to set new records here in Lillington with our various different Link Transit routes, which is great. Ridership was massive in December, particularly with our local shuttle that just goes through town. That was an extraordinary use during the month of December. It actually really surprised me considering how tourism was down, but it really spiked up in December. That was interesting. One thing that I would love for us to discuss at some point in the future is what we're going to talk about. We have a parking committee meeting tomorrow. And
okay, so I attended the Greater Leavenworth Museum meeting 20th. They're going to post, they're saying to post for Women's History Month, our founding mothers, somewhere around the middle of March, like 14th of March. It's one of the things you're going to sponsor. They're also considering ways that they can accent the entrance to the museum, since people kind of make a mistake and think they're going to that Cracker Museum. It's actually the Greater Leavenworth Museum, and it doesn't seem to be a demarcation. So it's got to come before the the design board, but they came up with some plans, not too expensive. That they also got to consider the owner of the building, what she wants, but they wanted to make it because it kind of happens on a regular basis. People think they're walking all the way up those stairs to see Nutcrackers, and it's not. Nutcrackers are the other floor. So that's one thing we discussed. Like everywhere else, visitors in December were significantly below, about a third less income, like about $3,000 less, and foot traffic was the same. They trained 4 new volunteers, so they're still able to bring in some new blood, and they're in June they're going to close the museum just in the afternoon for 2 days, so they can have the 4th grade field trips come in there and explore the museum in the afternoon. So that's the end of my report.
I missed the last council meeting on February 10th, so I'm going to report. I went to the community engagement night on February 3rd and spoke with one of the architects from the RC Architects, and he showed me, the designs and locations that they're just going to be for the new parking garage. I just love, attending the community engagement nights and seeing all the new booths that they come in, give, an update to the community on what's happening, the future of the town. And last night I attended the Civics Academy on finance and records, and I just want to say that Courtney did a great job of putting together the content for this meeting. Yeah, it was really well thought out, and I was super impressed. Chantel and Shelby educated everyone extremely well on how finances work within our local government, and Andrea was amazing at describing her role as city clerk and how records are kept, and I just loved her enthusiasm, and it was really great. Yeah, that's the end of my report.
All right. Travis, I too missed the city council meeting. So to your point, I also went to the community night, had some stimulating conversations with community members as usual, and same thing, all different groups. And, spent some time in the parking committee, put my dots up, and it was pretty cool. The parking table is there all the time. That's just pretty cool. Parking programs coming up. And for parking advisory committees, I think it's tomorrow as well. I'll be there. I was in attendance last night at the Civics Academy, and I do appreciate you leaving me negative 2 minutes. I think if we were basing, it's like, oh, one more thing. Hey, you've never noticed me to end on. Get right from beers with the mayor. That's what happens. It was. Is that why I went long? Yeah. Why I went long? Yeah. It was all engaging, real good stuff. It was all good stuff. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That was amazing. So there's got 47 people that came. And Andrea we were talking like, it's so great to see you in that position. You are giddy about being part. You're so good at it. It's amazing. I think you've been doing it for like 50 years, but 3 years. you got to figure it out. Selby, everyone that spoke was really cool, and I can't sing everyone's praises enough. It was cool to see everyone that was there caring about the city, and to your point even earlier, reiterating what different taxes can fix. I mean, this was the finance kind of thing even last night, but we were getting it a little bit more and more. And I think it's really important to know where things are, what funding funds what, and what you can and can't do. And it was such a great visual, putting the different monies in the different slots, and then going over them and seeing. You guys did a great job. The enterprise fund can pay for this, and this can't pay for this. And it was people really got it. There weren't a lot of mistakes, but they were putting the right. We were impressed with that.
I was super impressed.
Yeah. And the message, my message to them was: tell your neighbors what you learned tonight, and just if everybody just kind of spreads this like understanding and come to a meeting. I'm sure people are watching this right now on YouTube. In a couple of weeks, you can watch the YouTubes of our meetings. Just discover sure transparent. So. That was really exciting. I'm gonna try to schedule one more if I can't include the schedule. I want to jump in another one. Yeah, really cool, really awesome.
I talked to one of the members of last night's session, and she was so excited about last night.
Yeah.
And she's like, I can't wait to go home and talk to my neighbor, because now I know how to talk to my neighbor about all of the negative stuff he's talking about.
That's amazing.
What I got tools, and I can tell him he's wrong, but also tell him, here's the right information.
The resource.
Maybe lots, so they get last night.
That's great to hear. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's it.
Yeah, and so much of that does revolve around the financial piece, right? That people,
How does Ken
Yes.
run things?
right, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Since our last meeting, I met individually with the Steel Board President and the manager of the Steel Patrol District. Really, like anything new, trying to understand how it works. You know, it's so much more than just not having bug lights. It's really a public health concern, you know, and so it's really great to really get my fingers into that. Also was helpful in recruiting fifth board member, which hasn't been official yet, but we should be able to actually have a full board now, which is great. And let's see, we went to we had the downtown steering committee meeting today, which we are all up to speed on what we talked about. I'm over the 2 hour, but yeah, I think that's it.
All right.
My colleagues did my meeting, staff steering, so that's what I've got, and so we will get public works meeting coming up. We'll get the topics for you about it, and about that. And get over here for every week. They did build up.
Well, we already referred one thing
That's right.
to our committee in our consent agenda this evening.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
Vegetation stuff.
Yeah, sure. Cool. That's all I got.
All right. I don't have much either, except for to say I celebrated Valentine's Day by going down to the Chambers ribbon cutting. Oh, yeah, I was on my, I saw you. I took my honey down there to celebrate Valentine's Day with some goodies at Chamber. No, it's a lovely space, and I love new wood smell. I mean, it was nice. Yeah, if you haven't gone down there, go check it out. It's going to be a great addition.
And that is it. So, thank you, Mayor. Did y'all read my update from last week? Friday? Okay. So there are some events taking place next week that your attendance would appreciate that. One is the Royal Lady presentation. It might be too late to sign up for that one now. You each received an invitation, I believe, a physical invitation. And I think it was February 20th was when Linda wanted responses, RSVPs back. That is on.
Mail upstairs.
Yeah. I was told that everybody that you each got one. That's what Linda told me. So you never got one.
No, your mention of it last Friday was the first time I heard about it.
Okay.
Okay.
And it's interesting because she asked me for my home address to make sure that I would get one, and this is the first year I ever received one. So
Maybe they're starting to do.
maybe.
And say normally she would give me the invitation and I would email it out to you guys as. But
She says.
she could even get it.
Well, I will report that to the Alpha folks.
As you.
I'm sure she would. Well, there's still one that you can do.
Yes, if you could let Andrea know by tomorrow, if you'd like to attend the chamber banquet, which is on the 5th of next week. Starts at 5:30, dinner at 6, I think what you said. So we'll get some tables just to let Andrea know, and she'll add it to our list of folks who are going to be attending that. And then Sustainable NCW is having a fundraising event this Saturday, which we were asked to ask you to attend. So if you want to go to that, see, you all replied to the doodle poll for our retreat. Thank you. Shane amended his schedule so that we now have everybody, as long as Zeke is okay with doing his schedule, for May 9th, 29th. So Friday, May 29th is the Friday after Memorial Day. That is the date that we can all make for our retreat. And you start thinking about what you'd like to use that date for, and let me know. In your packet next time, we do have time on the agenda during study session to discuss the retreat, what you'd like to cover. And in the packet, I will include the agendas for the retreats we've done in the years that I've been here, just so you can see what we've already done. And wrapping up the recreation and tourism manager interviews this week. Hopefully, we'll select a candidate and maybe next week. And that ties into one of the first tasks I will have this new person do is to create an ad hoc committee to discuss the roundabout art design, which I anticipate will be a great.
That's it. Chantel.
It has been a rough February. I have been sick, my team has been sick, but we have no reports. And February's over. What happened?
Eddie.
I just have a quick update on the comprehensive plan. Moving forward with that, we have a planning commission meeting next Wednesday to review the first few elements, the land use, housing, and the intro. Online right now, we have the draft intro, land use, housing, utilities, and economic development elements for review. We haven't sent out, it's not the official public comment period, but I'm just putting it out there. We're going to be sending an update out probably this week to everyone who signed up for updates to the comp plan. I just wanted to let you know that it is there. If you get questions, feel free to send people my way. And I should announce that we are, or one of my employees has officially resigned. He's gonna, Aiden, who's our permit tech, is on to bigger and brighter things. So we will miss him, and he is with us for another month through the end of March. So we're really excited that he gave us long enough notice so that we can work through things. So that will be the position that was posted. Sure.
Right.
Just a couple of things, just trying to keep Public Works moving in the right direction, focusing a lot on projects right now, trying to get them out to bid. And then also just something that the council will see in the next couple of weeks-ish is I'm putting the final touches on the CIP plan for the next 5 years. Pretty good numbers associated with that. And then lastly is I'm currently working on 2 grants for Autumnstrasse, that connector piece up there. So hopefully we can get some funding for that.
Great.
I forgot something really quick. I don't know if it's appropriate, but I'd like to request, be absent the next, council meeting, be on vacation.
No.
Well,
Excuse me. Me too. I'm busy.
not enough leave time, I'm sorry.
Not much leave. Better plan your trips better next time.
Yeah.
Hey, how's Andy doing? Baby, she's doing well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I went and saw her last week and her and her husband, they're not getting any sleep, but the baby's cute.
Give my regards, please.
Sure.
I entertain a motion.
Second.
Second. All those in favor? We are adjourned.
Thank you.